This is Mrs. Lehnert. Today we're learning about latitude and longitude. By the end of this video, you should be able to plot locations on a map if you're given the latitude and longitude coordinates, and you should be able to state the latitude and longitude coordinates if you are given a location on a map. Remember, you should have a latitude and longitude notes page that you are recording this information on. So we're going to start off with the definition of latitude lines. So latitude lines are lines that measure distance in degrees north and south of the equator. So if I label my latitude line, my major latitude line is the equator. So go ahead and darken that in on the picture on your notes page, and let's label that EQ for equator. And then you can see all of these other latitude lines are north and south of that equator line. Longitude lines are lines that measure distance in degrees east and west of the prime meridian. So longitude lines are vertical lines, and here is the main longitude line called that prime meridian. So darken that in on your note sheet, and let's label that PM for the prime meridian. And then you can see that you can measure everything east and west of the prime meridian. So all of these other longitude lines are either going to be to the left, which is west, or to the right, which is east. All right, time for your first check for your understanding. Is the blue line a latitude line or a longitude line, and how do you know? Okay, hopefully you got that right. That's a longitude line. And the reason I know that is because longitude lines always run or they go up and down, right? If this were a latitude line, it would be going from left to right. Because remember, these latitude lines are parallel with this right here, which is the equator. And our longitude lines are going to look very similar to the prime meridian. So the prime meridian actually is at 0 right here. We'll talk about that next. Okay, before we talk about that, let's check your understanding again. Is the red line a latitude line or a longitude line? And how do you know? Haha, did I trick you? I hope not. This is also a longitude line for exactly the same reason. It's a line that's running up and down the paper. If you got that, nice job. All right, let's try some more. Is the purple line a latitude line or a longitude line? And how do you know? You should be getting pretty good at this. So this is a latitude line. That's what you should have said, because this is a line that is running from left to right. Okay, we're going to try one more. Okay, same question. This time we're talking about that green line right here. Is that a latitude line or a longitude line? And these answer choices are a little bit different, so be careful, read carefully. You got this. Okay, hopefully you got that. This is a longitude line, so you should have at least chosen that it was a longitude line because it's going up and down. But if you know what your definition was, if you look back at your definition, you saw that this is the prime meridian, and this is a longitude line that is measured east of the prime meridian, and it could be measured east or west of the prime meridian. So hopefully you got that right. So now I'm going to teach you how to state the latitude and longitude of different locations on a map. Now, if you've done this before, sometimes latitude and longitude can be kind of confusing for students. And I think a big reason is because we get kind of confused about north, south, east, and west. And a lot of times those compass directions aren't on the map. And so that's really the big skill that we're going to learn today, is just making sure that we understand what the directions mean. And that's actually really helpful for you, especially living in New York City, where knowing where north or south, east or west, uptown, downtown is kind of really important for you to get around. And we have 4 different locations. We have G, C, B, and I. And so we're going to first identify those on our map. So G is right here. And then we have C, which is right here. We have B, which is kind of hidden right here. And we have I right here. So let's start first by labeling our map. So whatever I draw on my map, you should draw on your map as well. So I'm going to make a line right here where my 0 is. I'm going to circle the zeros on either side. You want to make a nice line, either with maybe a different color ink like blue or something that's going to stand out a little bit. And then we want to label this right on the line as the equator. We're also going to label this as a latitude line. That way we always remember. And the definition of a latitude line is anything that is measured north, this is north, or south of the equator. So if we look at all of the numbers, like for example, 0 is the latitude of the equator, all of the numbers that are north or up from the equator, all these numbers are going to be, for example, 30 degrees north, 60 degrees north, 75 degrees north. And all these numbers down here will be 30 degrees south, 60 degrees south, or anything in between. All right, make sure you have labeled your map this way, okay? So now I'm going to switch to a different color here, and I'm going to label my longitude line. You might want to use maybe a different color, maybe a highlighter, maybe a pencil or a different colored pen if you have it. And again, I'm going to circle the zeros down here and up at the top. And this is a really special line of longitude that we call the prime meridian. So I'm going to label this prime meridian on my paper. You should be doing the same exact thing. And then I'm also going to label this line as a longitude line. Again, just like we labeled the equator a latitude line, we're labeling the prime meridian a longitude line. And if we know the definition of the longitude lines, we know that longitude lines measure east. This way is east. So that means this would be 30 degrees east, 60 degrees east, 90, 120 degrees east. Whereas all of the numbers on the west side of the prime meridian are going to be 30 degrees west or 60 degrees west. And this happens at the bottom of the map too. If you want to label the bottom, then go ahead and do that, right? So top and bottom are exactly the same. So for the latitude, you could also label the left-hand side. Actually, you should do that. Okay, so just make sure you've labeled your map this way before you continue on. If you need to push pause, do that. So let's go back here. We have a question we're trying to answer. State the latitude and longitude of the following letters on the map. Let's start with G. Point G is right here. And I usually start by asking myself some questions. First question, which line is the point on? Second question, what's the number, the degrees for that line? And then third, what's the direction? So we're looking for line, number, direction. So G, and I always start with latitude. Latitude and longitude, we call it that way for a reason. We give the latitude first, we give the longitude second. So I got to find the line, the number, the direction. Line, number, and the direction. Okay. So first of all, the line that G is on, you don't have to write this, but I'm just going to draw it so you can tell what I'm talking about. This is the line that G is on. Okay, it's a latitude line. And so now all I have to do is figure out the number that goes with that line. That's my next step right here. And if I just follow that to the edge of either the right or the left, I can see that it is 30. So now I've got my number. So I'm going to write 30 degrees up here. And the last thing I have to figure out is the direction. Well, since I have beautifully labeled my map already, I know that this 30 is south of the equator. And so all I have to do is put S up here for south. I'm going to put a comma, and now I have to do the same thing for longitude. So you find point G again, and now my longitude line is a vertical line. So I've got my line. I need to find the number. It's 150 at the bottom, it's 150 at the top, so that must be the longitude number in degrees. And then I need to have the direction. Again, since we labeled our map, this is really easy. So I know that it's got to be E for east because it's east of the prime meridian. Let's try the next one. I'm going to erase my some of my black marks here. I'm going to try to leave what you guys already have. So now let's try point C. Okay, point C is kind of hidden underneath here, so I'm just going to erase some of this so you can see it. And again, we're just going to ask ourselves those same questions. Here's point C. What line is it on? What's the number? And what's the direction? So here's point C. I have to do latitude first, so I'm looking for my latitude line, which is this one. And, oh, that's the equator. Okay, I need the number for that, which is 0 degrees. So I'm going to write 0 degrees here. And now I need the direction. Wait a minute. The equator is actually the reference line. So the equator shouldn't have a direction because everything is measured either north of the equator or south of the equator. So we just leave that number as is. We don't put a direction. Anytime you put 0, and that goes true for the prime meridian too. The prime meridian will never have a direction after it. It's only 0. And now that we know the latitude, now we're going to draw our longitude line. Again, you don't have to draw this line. You just need to look for that line. I find it helpful to draw it. And the numbers are at the top and the bottom. So there's my number, 120. And then the last thing I need to figure out is the direction. And again, since we labeled our map, I can see that this 120 is on the right-hand side of the prime meridian, which is east of the prime meridian. So we're going to put E after that. So hopefully you are getting the hang of this. And in fact, if you feel like you are really getting the hang of this, I think you should try the next one. Pause this video so that you can try the next one on your own, and then start the video back up again while I explain it and see if you got it right. Okay, so welcome back. B is what we're looking for. And I need to actually erase that so I can see it a little bit better. For point B, right here, you should have said that it was 60 degrees north because it's north of the equator. And you should have said 0 degrees, so you put a comma, and then you should have said 0 degrees for the longitude. So it would have been 60 degrees north, 0 degrees. Hopefully you got that right. We're going to try the last one. That's letter I. And again, do the same thing. Go ahead and hit pause so you can try this on your own. All right, welcome back. So here is point I. This one's a little bit more challenging because the line itself doesn't have a number. But you should know that if this is 60 degrees and this is 30 degrees, 60 minus 30 is 30. And then if you want to go halfway between those two, just divide it by 2. So 2 into 3 is 1 with 2. And then 2 goes into 10, so it's 15, right? And if I'm trying to go back from 30 to 60, I'm going to have to add that 30 back to it, and that's 45. So that's how I figure out that the halfway point right here is 45. If that was confusing to you, pause the video right now, go back and re-listen to what I just did. You'll catch it the second time. So we did all of that so we could figure out that this line that I is on is 45 degrees, and that would be the latitude. And since it is north of the equator, we would put an N after that. And then the longitude, again, is also partway in between. So here's your longitude line, and it's halfway between 90 and 120. Since each of these seem to be going up, each of these are going up by 15, then I know that all I'd have to do is add 15 to 90, and that should give me 105 for my longitude. I have to figure out my direction, so if I go and I look at my prime meridian right here, I know that we are west of the prime meridian. Again, I've already got it labeled, but I know that I could figure that out as well. All right, time for a check for your understanding. What are the coordinates for letter X? And we're going to put point X right here. You do not have to label this on your map, but you do need to use maybe your map that you labeled in order to figure this out. Okay, hopefully you got that right. Let's go on to the next one. Same kind of question to give you a chance to get this again. This time we're looking at letter Q. So what are the coordinates for letter Q? Q is going to be right here. All right, give it a try. All right, hopefully you got that one right. That one was a little trickier because it was in between. All right, the last thing we're going to do is we're going to go the opposite way. So up until now, I've been saying, here's a point, tell me what the latitude and longitude coordinates are. But this time we're giving you the latitude and longitude coordinates because this might happen. Someone might say, hey, what is at this location? Like a little treasure map or something. And so you need to be able to figure that out. So here is 0 degrees and 0 degrees. So what I would do, again, the first one is always going to be your latitude line. So I need to find the latitude line that is 0 degrees. So that's going to be on that line, and it's going to be where it crosses with the other 0 degrees. And so the point is going to be right here, and now that I've covered up, you can't see it, but that is point A, right here. Okay. All right, let's try the next one. Erase these so it's a little bit easier to see. This one is 60 degrees north, 180 degrees east. Now, it will be tempting for you to think to yourself, oh, north, so I go up here to the north part of the map. That's wrong. Remember, you have to think about the line, okay? If we're talking about this first number, it is a latitude line, which means it has to be a horizontal line. And all of these numbers that are up here are associated with these vertical, these up and down lines. These are longitude lines. You know that. This is not where you need to be starting. So think about the fact that we're dealing with a latitude line first, and you want to find 60 degrees. So if this is going to be a 60-degree line, it's going to be a latitude line. It could be either this one or this one. Those are both 60 degrees. If you look here, this is north, so it's got to be north of the equator. Here's my equator, and north is this way, so it's got to be 60 degrees right here. It's got to be on that line. Now I look at my 180 degrees. I know this is going to be a vertical line or an up and down line. Where are the 180s? Oh, there's actually only one labeled 180 right here. Let's see if this works. This is east, which is the direction from the prime meridian. Here's 0, which is my prime meridian. That's going to go to the east, yes. So it must be on this line. So wherever those two lines cross, it's kind of like making a graph. Wherever those two lines cross, that's my letter. And again, I can't see it, so I'm going to erase a little bit. That is letter F. So hopefully this is making sense to you. What I would do is pause the video, see if you can do these last two on your own, and then start the video back up and you can check your answers. Okay, so here we're back. This one here is 30 degrees south and 30 degrees east. So this is 30 degrees south. That's what you should have figured out. 30 degrees east is this line, and where they cross is letter E. And for the last one, 15 degrees south should have been halfway between 0 and 30 degrees south, because that is south of the equator. And then 60 degrees west, we're going the opposite direction. We're going west this time. Here's 60 degrees, and the point where they cross is at point L. If this is confusing to you, just go back, listen again. Trust me, it'll make more sense the second time around. And here are a few check your understandings just to see if you really do understand what's going on here. For this one, you want to figure out which letter is at 30 degrees north and 90 degrees west. So for that one, you should have figured out that this was 30 degrees north, this line right here, and then 90 degrees west is this line here, and D is right there in the middle. If you didn't get that one, hopefully you'll get this one. Which letter is at 60 degrees north and 120 degrees east? If you chose H, you were correct. 60 degrees north, remember this is our latitude line for 60 degrees and it's north of the equator. 120 degrees is our longitude line. Here's 120 and it is east of the prime meridian. And now let's mix it up a little bit. What are the latitude and longitude coordinates for letter Z? And let's place Z right here, which is just off the coast of Japan. So this is letter Z. Okay, hopefully you got that right. Again, remember you got to find the line that it's on. Here's that line. Find the number. We're halfway between 30 and 60, so that's 45. And we need the direction. It's north of the equator, so it's N for north. Put my little degree symbol there, 45 degrees north. And then its longitude line is here. Find the number, which is 150, and then find the direction. And I know that it is west, nope, east of the prime meridian. I get those mixed up all the time. So I usually have to write my little compass direction here. And then I also always remember never eat soggy waffles. And then that can help me to remember north, south, east, west.